My name is Terre Armstrong, and my husband and I fell in love with the coastal Carolinas a couple years ago, so much so that we held a family reunion trip there, and eventually our son and his fiancée now call Charlotte, North Carolina their home, and our daughter has already made a return trip with her young family. I'd like to take you on some of our favorite places and share some of our adventures, with web links to check out on your own later. Our first introduction to Southern living was in South Carolina. We rented a sea cottage in Port Royal, right on the water. That evening, we unpacked and enjoyed a bottle of wine on the back deck. Eventually, we walked down to the marina to take in all the sights and sounds. Watching the sunset over Port Royal was a special experience. Early the next morning, we took a side trip to the Charleston Tea Garden Plantation right outside of Charleston, North Carolina. The only active Charleston, South Carolina, the only active tea plantation in the whole entire United States. It was an interesting tour that showed the whole process of producing tea from farm to table, from greenhouse to the planted rows of tea plants to the final packaged product, which was available for purchase in their tea shop on the premises. We came back to Beaufort that night and enjoyed a walk along the waterfront. We especially enjoyed the water-facing adult swings in the Henry Chambers Waterfront Park. We had made a reservation, and so we topped off our evening with dinner at the Saltus Grill. Seafood is always my favorite thing anytime I get close to the coast, and Saltus Grill did not disappoint. Try their signature low country or Carolina sets for a taste of local fare. And if you can, eat in their outside area, because it's truly magical with their stringed lights, torches, fire pits. It makes for a very memorable evening. Early the next morning, we were off to my favorite thing, the beach. But first, we had to stop to stock up on eats and drinks. Taking your own picnic lunch is very important. So after the grocery store, we also made a quick stop at the Saturday Farmers Market in Naval Heritage Park. There we ate breakfast, and mine was a plate of delicious Indian specialties from one of their local food vendors. We chose Hunting Island State Park for its beautiful natural beach. Getting there was interesting because you went through what is called a coastal rainforest, and this is where they filmed the Vietnam War scenes in the movie Forrest Gump. If you get out on any of the trails here, stay on the boardwalk and do not feed the alligators. There is also an original lighthouse. The Hunting Island Lighthouse is available to visitors from 10 to 5 most days. It only costs $2 each to climb the 167 iron steps up to the top. It has been named to the National Historic Registry, and each level has some information. The lighthouse is beautiful, and you can take wonderful photos with views of the barrier islands. There's also a small museum outbuilding where you can learn more. And now to the beach. We went early, and it seemed like we had it all to ourselves. It starts getting busier later around noon. The expanse of the Atlantic Ocean is truly breathtaking, and we felt like we were the only people on Earth. The water was fine. We walked the beach, we swam, we jumped the tides. It was a clear day, so the water was pretty calm. but the destruction wrought from a recent hurricane was indeed visible. We were too tired from our beach day to do anything but rest that evening, but the next morning we had reservations for a classic Sunday Southern brunch at a historic Beaufort Inn. I highly recommend finding an experience like this, or maybe a fancy Southern tea, for a memorable meal. Then we took a side trip to Savannah, Georgia. This was just a day trip, and that's one of the best things about Port Royal and Beaufort. It's that it's centrally located to some of these great southern towns like Charleston and Savannah. We did a little antique shopping on the way. Then we got to Savannah, where we strolled the historic city market. It's considered to be the soul of Savannah. It's basically a shaded courtyard set between two city squares. It's a lively marketplace and is a popular spot for restaurants, art galleries, shopping, and exciting nightlife. A purchase of a sweet grass basket is a must. Next was one of my favorite shopping experiences. It's called the Paris Market. It's more than just a store. It's rather a concept experience. It's like an ever-changing museum installation that mixes an eclectic range of antiques with modern housewares, gifts, and lots of books. Has a very European flair and even includes a French cafe and patisserie inside. We walked down to the historic River Street. I hope you wore comfortable walking shoes. As you can see, the walkways were cobblestone and brick, but the view of the river is totally worth it. And of course, there is more shopping there on the riverfront. My favorites were the antique markets, Wright Square and Antique Attic, where I found this guy and took him home. And also the Savannah Shell Shop, which had the best selection of corals and other large seashells I have ever seen. I took one of the corals home too to add to my personal collection. Then it was time to grab a bite to eat at Moon River Brewery. The outdoor eating area is gorgeous, but we decided to enjoy a beer flight inside, where we were able to meet Toby, the resident ghost. This building is supposedly haunted, and if you have time in Savannah, I would highly recommend going on a ghost tour. But ours was just a day trip. We will have to come back to explore Savannah some more another time, because then we were off to Mount Pleasant, where we had rented another vacation rental by owner, and the Isle of Palms beach. There is a public beach at the Isle of Palms Park, and again, we spent most of the day there, from sunup to almost sundown. There you could rent beach equipment, beach chairs, boogie board, just like my husband Slick did. Me? Well, I like to body surf, and so there's no equipment required for that, and the waves that day did cooperate. That night, we rested and ate in our condo, but the next day, the guys decided to do their own thing. They went on a deep sea fishing trip, while the girls checked out a local preserved southern plantation called Oakland. That evening, after we had cleaned up, we went out for happy hour at Saltwater Cowboy Seafood Restaurant. It's right on Shem Creek, and is known for its trash can nachos, cowboy tacos, outdoor bar, and live music. It was a really good time. The next day, we had to travel back to Charlotte, North Carolina. There we stayed with our son, who lives near Lake Wylie. That evening, we went for a walk down to Lake Wiley Park and back. The lake affords all waterfront sports, including stand-up paddleboarding, kayaking, boating, and fishing, and it has 2 swimming areas. The lake lies on the border of North and South Carolina. Since our son had to work the next day, my husband and I decided to explore the quaint town of Belmont close by. We are glad we did. We discovered the cronut. It is a cross between a croissant and donut. We found it at Everyday Market and had it for breakfast. And then we hit some more shopping spots. And the shopping was good. Belmont has 2 superior antique and vintage markets, Piccolo Antique Mall and Fine Consignment, and Catawba River Antique Mall. I found lots of goodies there, including a mid-century modern wicker surfing set and 2 French wall sconces. Across the street from the Everyday Market is the beautiful Stowe's Park. It's a huge park where you can walk part of the Carolina Thread Trail system. This system is a regional network consisting of 300 miles of greenways. It reaches across 15 counties in the 2 states. But we were more interested in the playground to take our granddaughter there later. The next day, we headed out to the Blue Ridge Mountains. On the way, we stopped at the original White Duck Taco Shop on the French Broad River, where you can order cheer beer, a local drink that is very reminiscent of Dr. Pepper, and then tacos any which way you can imagine. Then it was on to Mount Mitchell State Park. We drove out, I have to admit that we drove up most of the way. But we did do a hike. The shortest hike was actually the hardest. It was called the Summit Trail, and it was rated high difficulty due to the steep incline and the high elevation. But it's only a quarter mile, and it is very worth it, for it leads to an observation deck and has a beautiful 360-degree panoramic view of the mountains. There is also the grave and final resting place of Elisha Mitchell. He was a noted educator and geologist and explorer. He identified Mount Mitchell at 6,684 feet to be the highest point east of the Mississippi River. Later that afternoon, we made it to Asheville, North Carolina, just in time to check into our vacation rental by owner, clean up, and go out to dinner at Jenny Ray's Oyster House. If you are an oyster lover, it is a must stop. We enjoyed 3 different kinds of oysters on the half shell, Maryland-style crab cakes, and ginger beer, all considered their specialties. The next day, we took out early to explore downtown Nashville. It's really a city like no other. The arts and music scene is renowned. Our first stop was the Crest Emporium, an art gallery. It highlights local North Carolina artists' work, all which was for sale, including earthenware pottery, sculpture, art glass, paintings, and more. Then we continued our stroll through the eclectic city. We were able to observe many different architectural styles. My favorites were the Art Deco buildings. Then there are the shops and boutiques, of course. We had to stop in the Chocolate Fetish to sample a Southern classic called the praline. But there is also a newer version called the chocolate round. They had everything from dark chocolate espresso rounds to white chocolate macadamia. Can you say yum? But my favorite, then there were the boutiques. My daughter and daughter-in-law loved shopping these. In the South, you can find very romantic, frilly fashions. I bought a t-shirt emblazoned with the motto, "Spiritual Gangster." It was a lot of fun shopping there. But my favorite can't-miss shopping experience in Asheville was the screen door. This is a vintage shopping experience like no other. It combines a floral shop with beautiful vintage garden and home decor. The booths were lovely, and the styling was a treat for the eyes. But the best part was a surprise. A bookstore with a comfy reading area right in the middle. And of course, they specialized in new and old garden and home decor books. After our busy day of shopping, we had made reservations at Isa's French Bistro. The bistro is very like many you would find in France, complete with street-side seating. We enjoyed French fare, including Isa's salad, leg of lamb, seared scallops in a pepper sauce. It was so delicious. But the drinks were even better. Wine straight from Alsace, southern sweet tea, and the best old-fashioned cocktail we've ever tasted. I highly recommend this dining experience. We ended our day with live music. A psychedelic 70s rock band was performing at One World Brewery. It was just up the street from our vacation rental home, so we were able to walk up there, sample several beers from around the world, and walk back home. The next morning, we got up early and ate breakfast at Early Girl Eatery. Another Southern classic, chicken and waffles. Tasted really good before we headed back to Charlotte. On our way back to Charlotte, we stopped at our last adventure, Chimney Rock State Park. Chimney Rock is the 535-million-year-old monolith for which the park is named. It's considered one of the most iconic sites in North Carolina. And from its top, you can soak in the 75-mile panoramic view of Hickory Nut Gorge and Lake Lure. For adventure seekers, you can hike to the top of this 315-foot rock formation via the outcropping trail, but we took a less intense journey through a state-of-the-art elevator that gets you closer to the top, leaving just 44 steps to the breathtaking view. The climb is well worth the effort, and if you are a fan of the Last Mohican movie, the last 11 minutes of the movie was filmed right here. Then, of course, we had to make another stop to check out Lake Lure itself, of Dirty Dancing fame. We didn't see the small cabins, but we did explore the large lodge house and its beautiful view of the lake. As you can tell, there's so much to enjoy about the Carolinas. We didn't even get to the Biltmore Estate near Asheville or into downtown Charlotte. And my son wants to take us on another hiking trip to Crowder's Mountain. So we are already looking forward to our next visit, and I hope that now you are looking forward to your visit too. I'm sure, like ours, it will be a trip of a lifetime. Thank you, and goodbye, sweet Carolinas. We'll definitely be back.